All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Link to the Past Randomizer League Season 3. This is the Open League. It's going to be a match between Carlson32 and Adilor, representing Tony Hawk's Pro Smith Chain and Barely Faux Poms, respectively. Joining me on comms is Zetno. Zetno, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm looking forward to the game and interested to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Again, this is still week 6, so we're in all dungeons key sanity, and we're also coming down to the end of the season here. We've only got one more week in the regular season, and then we're into playoffs. And that being said, both of these teams are unfortunately eliminated from their chance to play in the playoffs. So this is sort of a, how should we say, exhibition match. It's they're fighting for honor here. Their playoff hopes are not on the table here, but everybody wants to win.
We will be getting underway in about 40 seconds. So we will see what the runners do. Do you have any predictions on what that last item that we'll be looking for will be, if there is one?
Well, the ones to keep your eye on for all dungeons key sanity are the Castle Tower small keys, the Swamp small, and in some cases the Ice Rod. Not quite as common in AD keys, but it does happen. And also, of course, the GT big key. But it's really the keys that become the sticking point in key sanity, particularly in all dungeons.
Yeah, you're talking about the Ice Rod. There was a seed the other day where the Fire Rod was at Catfish, and yeah, that took a while. That's
all dungeons key sanity. All dungeons key sanity does tend to be, I've said it before, a more comprehensive mode. It's a lot harder to safely skip checks, just due to the number of little things you have to pick up. Looks like we're getting started here, having some stream delay, so Adilor on the right is getting in motion first, finds the sword in Sanctuary.
Always nice to get a sword right off the bat. I think this is just a sinking time.
As we see Carlson starting at Link's house, seeing the two sort of common starting locations. Link's house, generally, you will see the runner go straight up towards the Uncle area, or if it's a boot start, commonly you will see the Sahasrah's cave, or closet, I suppose.
Moon Pearl in Link's house. So they have a sword and a Moon Pearl. That's a start to the game.
Already, I'm thinking that this could very well be an Agar required seed. We've seen a couple of those this week, more than a few. And if the Castle Tower keys start showing up, that should be a really big hint to these runners that they may need to defeat Aghanim and climb the tower in order to access the Dark World.
Well, because it is an all dungeon seed, having to do Aga wouldn't be too bad, just because they're going to have to do it no matter what. And our lumberjack is not anything important, 20 rupees.
Yeah, and because of that, it actually becomes a little bit useful to try and sniff it out earlier rather than later, simply due to the fact that the amount of time you can potentially save by finding Dark World access otherwise really gets cut down. If you really exhaust all of your possible options and somehow manage to get Dark World access without doing it, you're not really saving as much time. So it's usually in your best interest to do the checks efficiently and do Aga's Tower early.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The only downside really is that you add some stronger enemies to the Light World Overworld, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for most runners.
Yeah, usually I notice when I'm in Kakariko and there's guards in there, but otherwise I usually don't even notice.
I think I noticed one or two other places where a red guard just kind of shows up that I'm not ready for. It depends on how many swords you get early. The runners already have a sword, which is nice, but if they're stuck on this fighter sword for a while, a bunch of red guards all over the world can become a tad annoying.
Yeah, it's not likely to kill you so much as just slow you down.
Yeah, but in a race, you don't want to be slowed down.
So yeah, Adilor has the one bomb. Hopefully he runs into some more around here. And there they are.
I was about to say using that bomb was a little bit of a risk there because if he doesn't find one, there's a lot of bomb walls early in the Light World Overworld.
Yeah, you like to have 3 for Kakariko because there's the back of Blind's Hut here, the back of the well, as well as the chicken hut. There's our second sword. Aga is creeping ever closer. We do still need the 2 castle tower small keys though.
And a lamp.
And a lamp.
For logical access.
Logical access. And I wouldn't do it lampless with green mail 3 hearts.
With 3 hearts, no, but if they get a little bit of health, it's not too bad as long as you know the layout.
Yeah, if you know it.
Dungeon. There are definitely worse rooms than Aga Tower.
Yeah, really the hard one is the one with the pit, because there's no obvious way to get through it.
No, that's definitely the one room that I like to leave. And there's a heart.
Yeah, so if Adilor picks up these pots, he will have just enough for the bottle salesman.
Mitts. Wow, okay, Gabe.
Ooh, bottle. So finding a bottle in Kakariko is really nice because you can check Sick Kid on the way here rather than having to try and find some excuse to come back and check it later. Unfortunately, what Carlson is up to is a complete mystery right now. Unfortunately, with the restream, we are kind of at the mercy of the internet's whims. Generally, it's reliable, but, things happen.
Hopefully that gets up and running.
Really, the biggest drawback is for the our restreamer / tracker. Is gonna have to try to infer what Carlson has found based on any brief menuing, which won't be too likely since we do have quick swap enabled. Okay, so we've gotten a couple of keys so far. None of them have been the Castle Tower keys. We have found the Desert Palace key and a Turtle Rock key.
The Desert key is definitely welcome because it allows them to get that check without having to go to the back first.
Right. We've also found an Ice Palace small key, which is handy but less required.
Yeah.
It really just affects how you end up routing Ice Palace, which you're not really thinking about at this stage anyway, just because, you don't know if you're going to have to dive in there without the Cane of Samaria.
If we want to talk about not thinking about routing, there's no way they're even considering what they're going to do with that Turtle Rock key. And nothing on race game.
Yeah, so now Adilor is going to find the Moon Pearl and hopefully show us what Carlson found about 4 minutes ago. Nope, looks like heading straight down to the South Shore.
There are a lot of checks here. He's only got 1 bomb, so I guess I'll check Mini Moldrum Cave, but he will...
Yeah, it is nice to have 1 bomb here.
If you wanted to extend the check to either check Agino or Ice Rod Cave, he won't be able to without another bomb, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not a bad time to skip Ice Rod Cave for now, just because of the chance that it will become a little more efficient later on. Because right now we don't have the boots, we don't have the flute. And that's an easy check to justify coming back to later when you have some of those things. So skipping it right now is not a bad option. We may see it if we do find some bombs in Mini Moldorm Cave, though.
With all this checked, without finding anything else, he's probably going to Eastern next.
Yeah, the other option would be the escape sequence. With Master Sword, it's not really much of a hassle at all. It's just a little bit of a time investment for not a whole lot of return. It really depends on whether or not we see the lamp show up. We also might see a back of escape with those gloves showing up. Again, we'll need a bomb for that, though.
Or the boots.
Fire Rod is interesting, because that does, if we find a bow, that does put an entire Eastern Palace clear in logic if we also find, of course, the big key. There is a dark room on the way to the boss, but the Fire Rod does put that one in logic. So we're seeing Adilor go up to the castle. So right now it's between Sahasrarla's hut and an Eastern Palace dip and the castle. I personally like the castle play here.
Yeah, I forgot he hadn't checked this yet.
Yeah, that's what Carlson was doing a while ago. Unfortunately, we still don't have a good feed of Carlson's stream. Hopefully, we've got that local record going, so this race doesn't somehow become invalid. I doubt we'd see a contest from either party here, given that the stakes are rather low. But another bottle. That's a bottle number 2 with blue potion. That's a good find.
So they don't have a lot of health, but with 2 bottles, they have a lot of effective health now. So if they did need to do any sort of dark rooms or more difficult areas, they can get through it.
Yeah, for sure. We are going to see the escape sequence here, because we didn't find anything valuable enough to go directly to Eastern from here. You maybe would consider doing the front of escape if you found the bow, but in my opinion, that would send me straight to Eastern Palace. Again, I always forget about the big key requirement for Eastern and key sanity, so that's always another wrinkle.
Yeah, I was about to mention, unfortunately, it wouldn't give him full clear, so that bow wouldn't really give him any additional items.
So we still haven't seen either of the castle tower keys. I feel at this point, as we're running out of checks, if we see one, we assume it's going to be an Agaseed, and the other one is going to show up at some point. It's also worth noting that in addition to the bottom of escape here, there is the first chest in the castle tower that is completely logically available. And it doesn't contain a castle tower small key most of the time.
But it can.
It can. I've also seen another race where it contained the hook shot, which led the runners to the mountain for the lamp, which led them back to castle tower to go finish it off. So far, nothing in the basement here.
No. Yeah.
We got one more check here. Hopefully Adilor remembers to leave the green guard alive for the death warp, since we don't have the mirror.
Very easy thing to forget.
So right now, I am assuming that this is an incredibly close race. Hoping that we can get some of these issues resolved, because I'm very curious what Carlson's up to.
Yeah.
All right, so it doesn't look like Carlson is likely to have found anything major, even if a standard escape attempt was made. That's not particularly likely here, given that both of the swords were in areas that Carlson would not have gotten to early here. But we are seeing Adilor go to the back, which is notably in logic with that fire rod.
Yeah, Adilor will just be going through and doing his dark check here. That second room can be quite annoying. This one right here.
This is one of the, I feel, maybe, it's sort of the second tier, I would call, of dark rooms. The bottom tier would be the Castle Tower, or not Castle Tower, excuse me, Death Mountain Ascent with the Old Man, and Eastern Palace dark rooms. Those are pretty trivial to do because they're fairly linear, not a whole lot that can go wrong in them. Then you sort of have the second tier up, which is, say, the Back of Escape, doing that completely without light. I would also throw something like Dark Agate in there if you've got decent equipment. If you're low on health, then it's pretty rough. And then there's, I would also put maybe Dark Pod in there, Palace of Darkness, the Dark Maze, just because it's a little easy to lose your bearings. And then you've got stuff like Misery Mire. That's generally considered to be pretty tough.
Yeah, Mire, I would also say the turtle room in pod can be very annoying unless you know a quick kill.
Hey, Green Pendant Pod, interesting. There's our lamp. Interesting. Lamp. So if Carlson headed over here right away, I don't recall if either of the two chests in the Uncle area were bombs. If they were, or if any of our drops or triples were bombs, then this might have been a play. But right now we've got sort of two options. We've got that one extra logical chest in Eastern, and we've got quite a bit of stuff in Desert with that book.
I think while we're here, we definitely go and clear out what we can in Eastern, but Desert does have 3 available checks right now. And we can find out what's on that torch.
Yeah, right now Eastern is going to be the better play most of the time. There is a possibility that if you go to Desert now, you find the bow. But that's basically the only scenario in which going to Desert is the right play here. So I like this from Adilor.
You'd need to find the big key to Eastern there as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So you need 2 out of the 3 items to be the required Eastern.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that for the next probably hour, 2 hours or so, forgetting that this is Key Sanity. So be prepared for that.
Okay, I'll track the keys and you can track the items.
It actually seems to only happen with Eastern for some reason. I think it's because it's such an early part of the game that you're always thinking about, okay, when is an Eastern dip worth it? When can you full clear Eastern? And really the only wrinkle that Key Sanity throws into it is that big key, because there are no small keys and chests in this dungeon.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because you're not thinking about the small keys, you kind of forget that there's a key problem in this dungeon.
Yeah, and Eastern Palace of the Lightworld dungeons is probably the most logically interesting. Just because, there's that one chest that's always available, but only in logic with the lamp. There's the clear that's in logic with the fire rod or the lamp. There's just more that goes into it than any other Lightworld dungeon.
A good quick kill there on Adilor's side. And picking up Ether.
Yeah, not a huge find at this stage in the game, given that it's likely going to be in hand of both of the runners in fairly short order. Adilor making his way, though, towards the final check here in Eastern Palace before that big key shows up.
The one thing that's nice is they do have Master Swords, so they are able to use the Ether as a weapon if they need to, if there are any rooms they're less comfortable with completing.
Well, actually, using the medallions only requires a sword. The Master Sword is only required for the tablet checks.
Ooh, right.
So, and that's interesting if one of the swords is on a tablet, then it can sometimes be really tricky to upgrade that sword. But yeah, so in a swordless seed, the medallions are usable in certain situations without any sword at all, but I think most of the time they're still unusable. In this case, though, this is not swordless. Adilor finds nothing. We have a master sword. We can, with that lamp, logically go up the mountain, but we can't quite get to the ether tablet. So until we find the hammer and the hookshot or the mirror, that's going to remain a mystery.
So there is a check that we really haven't discussed yet that the runners definitely don't want to have something right now, but there is Zora.
There's Zora. That is in logic with the glove. The other sort of orphaned checks, as we like to call them right now, are Ice Rod Cave and Swamp Palace. Okay, Swamp Palace big. Yeah. I was wondering if that was going to be Eastern. We've also got Agina's Cave in the desert area, which I'm going to assume Adler's going to go to next.
Yeah, because if there's 3 checks already in desert plus Agina's Cave, that's 4 checks on that side, but he chooses to do something different.
Yeah, Sanctuary tells me that he's going to go up the mountain. There's 2 checks that are in logic right now with the equipment that he has. And all of them are in logic with the lamp. You can go up with just the glove, but everything up there is out of logic. So there's the Old Man and the Spectacle Rock Cave. You can look at the item on Spectacle Rock itself, but you can't get it without the mirror.
It's interesting. I guess he's doing it so that he doesn't have to double dip desert. I could think might be the logic, but
the issue is checking the Spectacle Rock Cave right now. It's a shorter climb than, going all the way to the right side. However you do it, but Death Mountain always eats away a little bit of time. So Adilor is hoping to find something good here. So here we get the check of Spectacle Rock Cave. We see another sword upgrade on top. And that's just a map. I doubt Adilor is thinking of going and getting that. Nope, save and quit. I imagine we see the desert play now.
It has to be. And the thing is, yeah, because it is an all dungeon seed, it doesn't matter to our runners what's a pendant, what's a crystal, because they're going to have to do them all anyways. It could make some difference later if there's something on PED, for example, but I don't think it's
the other thing
to go out of your way.
The other thing about the pendant and crystal dungeons that actually does make quite a bit of difference is whether or not we see a GT mode, because some of the items required for pendant dungeons can be in Ganon's Tower. For example, if you have I think right now we have Palace of Darkness as a pendant dungeon. That one, honestly, there's too many other dungeons that require the hammer. But, for example, if you got Swamp as a pendant dungeon, as we see the hammer there on Desert Ledge, you could have the flippers. If you've got Ice and Swamp both as pendants, the flippers could very well be in GT.
That's definitely a consideration. I think by the time that the runners they're looking at having about 7 crystals done, they're not going to be as concerned with the map to figure out exactly which one the last, say, crystal or pendant is. If they're looking for an item, they just won't do that dungeon and check GT later.
Yeah, it really kind of depends on which dungeons you get. So maps are kind of useful. You can also get, once you have Dark World access, you can get a crystal check on the bomb shop. And also, importantly, the hammer does give us full Dark World access. We can access most of the portals with the gloves and the hammer. Most importantly, we can get to the one in the Hyrule Field south of Link's house, which allows us access to Hype Cave. We can go to Village of Outcasts. That hammer is a pretty big opener for the rest of the seed. So a little unfortunate, actually, that Adilor didn't go here first.
we also did see that the big key is on the torch in Desert Palace, meaning that Desert is boots locked. They will not be able to complete it until they
a
get
big key is on the torch.
Oh,
We have already
right.
seen the
A
Swamp
big
Palace
key.
big key, I believe.
Correct.
That was in Back of Escape. It could be Desert Big
Right.
Key. If
Could be a
it's
vanilla key.
yeah, I see on the tracker we have Skull Woods Big Key marked. I do think we found Swamp. I don't remember seeing Skull Woods. Either way, those are the two big keys, along with Ice Palace, which is also marked, that we don't need. But either way, I do think we need to check that big key at some point once we get the boots. I also imagine we do see a full clear of this dungeon by Adilor. Just because that big key isn't going to be too bad to pick up later. And you do want to clear the dungeon.
The key you're mentioning at Skullwoods is a small.
I see. Okay.
So with a lot of places to check, it'll be interesting to see where Adilor goes next. Because with, as you said, with Hammer and Mitts, we can go almost anywhere in the Dark World.
Yeah, I am a fan, personally, of the Hype Cave first play. Just because the alternative of finding something really good in Hype Cave after going all the way around counterclockwise through the Dark World is kind of disappointing, knowing that you could have gotten that right away. Something like Mirror or Mitts would be really nice to find in Hype Cave.
Yeah, it definitely would. On the other hand, the same items could also be in Kakariko with the Thieves Town check having 4 items plus 3 items in Dark Kakariko. There's 7 checks there as well.
Yeah, we do see Adilor saving quit to Sanctuary, which tells me that he's going to Village of Outcasts, which is a perfectly reasonable play.
Yeah, as a lot of runners kind of treat those first 4 chests in Thieves Town as just part of their overworld checks because there's no requirement to get them, and they're very close to the front of the dungeon.
One thing that also is possible here is a Skull Woods clear. With that fire rod, we can get to the back, and there are enough keys underneath pots that you can make it right back without having to do anything else other than find the fire rod, really. It's a little spooky of a fight sometimes. We do have quite a few hearts, but green mail, no half magic, and master sword isn't ideal, but it's very, very doable.
And he does go up to Skullwoods. The one thing, we won't be able to check the big chest, but that's not too important, hopefully.
Ooh, that's a bold play to drop right in there. In Key Sanity, it's very likely that this will force a save and quit if we haven't found a small key. We do have a save and we do have a small key. So it's that probably is why Adilor is doing this right now. Without that small key, you have to save and quit out of here.
Yeah, that can kind of catch you, but
so there's the Hyrule Castle small. So another interesting point is until we find that, the bottom 2 chests in the Hyrule Castle escape sequence are not actually in logic, since theoretically you could have stolen the small key from the guard and spent it, blocking off access to those 2 chests. So now that we've found that, everything we found in Hyrule Castle is in logic. None of it was very interesting, though.
yeah, the runners don't really need to track the logic on arrows and bombs. Or hearts. There wasn't really anything helpful in that part of Skullwoods, but I think you're right. So Adilor is in here for the clear more than the items.
Yeah, I do like going here first rather than going to Village of Outcasts. Given that we don't have the mitts, it's a little more tedious to return to Skullwoods. You may as well, if you've got a dungeon clear, do it. That's a sort of an unspoken rule in randomizer routing. Do dungeons when you can. Getting a little I think that statue's just a pixel too far to the right. Adilor takes the Wallmaster just to reset the room. A little unfortunate, but it does happen.
See, we're kind of commentating this from the perspective of Adilor too. He doesn't know where Carlson is, and at the moment we don't know where Carlson is. So, runner making that bit of a mistake, you kind of start worrying about losing those small amounts of time.
Yeah, and especially in 80 keys, small amounts of time loss can add up over the course of a seed. It definitely makes it more of a difference at the higher tiers of gameplay. And speaking of which, Adilor makes a really nice optimization there, using the bumper to get a little bit of extra speed to get across that room a little bit faster. But usually you have to check so many things in an all dungeons key sanity seed that any mistake that costs you a set amount of time is sort of going to haunt you for the rest of the seed. So you've got to sort of get a lucky break at some point to make up that time a lot of the time. So it's all of those little execution mistakes are going to sort of weigh pretty heavily on these runners.
Another little bumper bounce to find bombs. This seed gave us a lot of items right away, but has not been helpful for the last few dungeons.
Yeah, still though, we are on our way to complete the first dungeon. And right now, if I'm Adilor, I'm thinking about that moth fight, trying to make it there with as much magic as possible, thinking about how much I've practiced Hammer Moth, which is a good strat, but a little finicky at times. Making sure you don't choke this moth fight is one of the decisions that's going to make or break your victory here.
Oh, 100%. Moth is by far one of my personal least favorite bosses, and I think from what I've heard from a lot of runners and commentators, a lot of people agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, one of the big things is there are a lot of runners that are good at Mothula if it's an easy fight. If you have half magic or tempered sword up, it's not too bad. If you've got a mail upgrade or two, it's not that bad. But with this current loadout, it's kind of in the middle. You do have to hit him a fair number of times, and the longer this takes, the more damage you're going to take. Drops down with only 5 hearts, so has to be careful. Would rather take damage, again, to the spikes, because that only does 1.
Ooh.
Again, that can be a hard fight.
He did have a potion, did he not? I think he has a blue potion.
Yeah, he has the blue potion. Probably wants to save it a little bit. This isn't the worst return. The problem is out of magic right now and still has to light all those torches in the next room. Luckily, he does have the lamp, so should be able to do it, albeit a little slow.
Just answer a question in chat. Carlson is having a little bit of technical issues. So for the moment, we're following Adilor on his journey to defeat Ganon.
Interestingly, though, pointing out that Carlson is heading towards Ice Rod Cave, which Adilor has not checked yet.
Yeah, that definitely could be something when he next updates. I'll try to get a look at his the tracker on his stream to see if anything important comes up. Nothing is updated. It looks like he checked it and he didn't add anything to his tracker, so it might not have been anything.
All right, Adilor is rematch with Mothula. Much better position here. The problem with this fight is if Mothula hits those spikes, any damage that you would have done to it with your attack is nullified. So you really have to sort of track where it's going and try to hit it into those blocks whenever possible to make sure your damage sticks.
I think that's the reason that this fight can be so difficult. The boss itself is very easy, but the room is unfortunate.
Yeah, the room is probably 66% of the boss fight, in my opinion. That is a very good use of that blue potion, by the way. You like to save blue potions, not at that point. Not when you've gotten a few good hits on Moth and you're at 2 hearts. You finish that fight.
When we find out Skullwoods is a crystal.
Don't know if it's 5-6 until Adilor presses the start button.
Sure, he will check eventually.
Yep, definitely wants to know if that's 5-6. I believe it was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
in the end, at this point, he can't get into Pyramid Fairy, even if it is a 5/6 crystal. So it's not a big thing to check quite yet.
Skullwoods is one of the 3 dungeons that does not hard require the big key. Ice Palace does logically require it, but there are, let's say, a number of ways around it.
And Swamp Palace being the 3rd that does not require the big key. However,
We
in
have
all
found
of them,
the
there
big
is a
key, though.
yes, but in general, for knowledge purposes, for some of our newer viewers that may not be quite aware of that. That means that big key for Swamp Palace will only be opening the 1 big chest.
And there's a mail upgrade. A little disappointing. That mail would have been nice for that first moth fight. But the second fight was definitely much better. So 2 fights on moth with a little bit low percent, not the overwhelming firepower that some runners can get used to, is not too shabby.
Sure, and yep, we will get the Thieves Down check. There are 4 chests that can be checked in here. Hurdle
TR big, that's a good find.
It's definitely an important item. I don't think it's something he's really thinking about using it quite at this moment yet, as he can't get to the entrance of that dungeon.
At this point, the front of Thieves Town is basically just overworld Village of Outcasts checks. Interesting. I'm not familiar with this route through Thieves Town. I need to time out some of these Thieves Town routes, because that does actually save a screen transition, but you can't sometimes see runners return from where they came into that room from, go over a little bit up and then over into that 3rd room. And screen transitions are pretty long, so optimizing that can be a little it can be helpful.
It can. He's checked all 4.
Yeah, he's going for the death warp. I probably should have hit some more enemies on the way in, but sometimes setting up for a death warp is not super high on your priority list when you're trying to find where to go next, because Adilor really doesn't have very many leads right now, other than an eventual pod dip, which isn't great right now with the equipment.
Yeah, well, still saying that Zora technically is still available as well from the starting of the game. Still doesn't have enough rupees for it, but it has been sitting there.
Yeah, right now the biggest things that Adilor could find would be, I think the single biggest thing would be either the hookshot or the mirror, both of which would grant access to the right side of Death Mountain. And indeed, the entirety of Death Mountain with the hammer and the mirror, you can get to the right side from the top. Adilor also ignores this 10 bombs, since his bomb bag isn't big enough to hold all of them, or any of them. Meanwhile, we see Carlson in Desert Palace about like 15 minutes ago or so.
Just checking his items on his screen. It looks like he has the same items that Adilor does. Well, less, because he's 7 minutes behind. But
yeah, also we can make some inferences here, given where Adilor has found things. Until Adilor finds something big, there's not much opportunity so far for Carlson to have made any significant progress, unless Carlson decided to do, say, Hype Cave first and something good is in there. Adilor checks the 5/6 crystals. So Eastern Palace and Hera are our 5/6 crystals. That's, given that we have Fire Source already, and we're 1 item away from each of those 2 checks. So Pyramid Fairy is not too far off. So that could be relevant later.
yeah, it's Pyramid Fairy is one of those with where those two crystals are. Pyramid Fairy could very well hold something. That's a lot of compasses.
Yeah. That's Zora money.
Oh, it is Zora money. I wonder if that'll click for Adilor that's available. I'm sure he'd like to combine that with something like Catfish, so he can get up there.
Yeah. I think we're gonna see Pyramid Ledge at the very least. We might see a pod dip instead. The pod dip means that we're gonna be back below Zora money, but it's kind of a in logic right now. There's not a whole lot in pod that's available. It's really just the one item. With the bottle, you could do a mimic. You could do the mimic clip or the potion camera unlock to get to the bow locked side. But right now, pod isn't super juicy.
No, with 0 keys, there are 6 keys total in pod. 5 are logically required, and 4 you can do 4 if you know the bomb jump, the hammer jump. But with 0, there's not very far you can get. It's another map.
Yeah, Adilor ignores it. Knows most of what we need to know. The only maps right now that could make a difference are the other 2 pendant dungeon maps. Since we know where the 5/6s are, we know where the green pendant is, and it looks like Adilor is heading towards Catfish, which I like. Given that the mirror still hasn't shown up, it's about time to stop holding out hope that you can combine Catfish with those other Zora area checks. Because if you don't get it now, you're basically risking orphaning it for a very long time.
Catfish is a very easy location to orphan.
Yeah, there are a few instances, there are a few circumstances where it makes a lot of sense to go for it. And a lot of instances where it makes only a little sense to go for it. And so it's often a place where runners will choose to try and shave off a little bit of time. Doesn't pay off for Adilor now, but what have we got waiting for us right now?
In terms of locations?
Yeah, not a whole lot's left right now.
I think Zora's still got to be on their mind. It's been available since the starting.
There's also Aga's Tower, which Adilor might be going for right now. Both chests in there could contain something good. Since we do have the lamp, the second one is also in logic. We don't have the first key, though, so it's not accessible.
We have a key on the tracker.
Oh, do we? Okay, well, I wasn't paying attention. So that makes this make a lot more sense. 2 chests up here in Aga's Tower. Pretty accessible from a save and quit. Really good choice.
He can complete everything in here except finishing Aga, due to the fact that requires 2 keys.
Which we're not really interested in right now. Anyway, since we do have full Dark World access, we've already gotten the Pyramid Ledge item. So we'll see what the first chest has. Piece of Heart. Meanwhile, it looks like Carlson headed to... I'm trying to do this in my head. Is it likely if Carlson was in Thieves Town 7 minutes ago that was the first area of the Dark World that Carlson made it to? Or is it possible that Carlson did Hype Cave start?
I don't think so. I think he went over left first before doing Hype Cave. Because he was near... No, maybe not.
Well, Dark World access was, I'm sure for both runners, that hammer on Desert Ledge.
Yeah,
it's possible that you go there early, but if you go there early, you're basically you've got those checks in Eastern, which weren't worth anything. So right now at optimal routing, we're looking at going to Desert first after Sahasrar's Closet. Adilor going to Ice Rod Cave. Important, we didn't see this from Adilor earlier. Carlson did go to it, though.
Unfortunately, we don't exactly know what it was, because his screen wasn't up at that time. I think Adilor may combine this with a fake flipper up to Zora as well, since he's here.
It's not a good choice if you don't do that. Because honestly, the only other check that is in logic is Zora. With the fake flipper and the Moon Pearl, we can also get 2 out of logic checks along with it, which sweetens the deal a little bit.
Yeah, the only thing he'll be leaving up there is the ledge item, and on a positive note for him, he will be able to see it, so he'll know if it's worth coming back for. Carlson's stream is catching up. He's only 2 minutes behind now.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like a PowerPoint slideshow, but we'll give him a pass on that. So if things stabilize here, we will be able to directly compare these two runners before too long. Looks like, okay, so Carlson and Adilor both have the powder. Carlson checking Magic Bat.
Oh, that is a check we have not seen yet.
This one is in logic. Adilor's checks are not. This is fake flippers glitch, allows you to swim in the water without having flippers. Makes sense for a Vaporeon to do so. Carlson finds the cape. Adilor didn't give us a look at bumper ledge, but that is now in logic.
Well, that will definitely be interesting to see if that turns into anything.
Ooh, I've had that exact thing happen to me. That hurts so bad. To get shot by that guard, I thought about saying a worse word in between that and guard, but restrained myself. That feels so bad. I've been there before.
Unfortunately, taking any hit while in fake flippers will end that particular attempt for runners.
Yeah, and that's a really bad spot for it because it's a huge time investment to go back, and Adilor at this point has to commit to checking those checks. Because right now it's either that or, the Magic Bat, and then after that you've got the bumper ledge. And this is just numerically the better choice. Carlson making the first trip up the mountain too. Interesting. I guess not that interesting. Adilor did it earlier and got nothing out of it. But Carlson's going to see that third sword.
Yeah. There are only 2 checks here, so it's not an extremely dense location for the
It also reminds me why I didn't know we had a castle tower key, because I specifically remember not paying attention to what the old man gave us.
Did Carson just get spin speed?
Yeah, I honestly, I'll admit, I don't use spin speed, so I'm not sure how it works. If it works without the boots,
it doesn't. That's why.
Okay, so I would imagine that Carlson did not get spin speed. If it doesn't work without the boots, Carlson can't get it unless Carlson found the boots.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, it looked like he was setting up for it, but
yeah, we're gonna have to wait for the stream to stabilize a little bit more for that.
It might have just been an autopilot.
Interesting. Carlson is heading here to Spike Cave. With the cape, this is in logic. I don't know if Carlson used that blue potion, but this could be possible for Carlson to check. Meanwhile, Adilor finds an out of logic Skullwood small and 10 arrows. Gets a red potion for his trouble. This is down to the wire for Carlson. That was
for a piece to heart.
That could have been so exciting. Unfortunately, it does look like Adilor is making the right play here with Zora. Has a water walk set up. Sees a small key on Zora ledge. That could be important. We have seen a Skullwood small in Pyramid Fairy Waterfall Fairy just now. So that could potentially be not a Skullwood small.
Yes, it could be a small for a number of other dungeons that have either additional keys or not required keys, so we'll have to see. But that could also be the Swamp Palace small that they actually need to get.
Yeah, Swamp Palace small. A pod small would actually be really, really good right now, since right now it's looking like they've got to go to Palace of Darkness. Luckily, Adilor, after Zora, still has enough to go in there. Carlson also turning in the mushroom. Adilor did not check the mushroom. Adilor went up to Zora from the fake flippers instead. So Carlson taking the logical checks on the way up here. What have we got? The flute.
Oh, that'll be interesting. That's going to provide him a lot of movement around the map, which
Yeah,
could allow.
It doesn't unlock anything, but it's a huge efficiency gain over Adilor. And if you pay attention to the timers, Carlson found that 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, that could be a significant time save depending on when Adilor gets up there. And I think for Adilor, that's a pretty orphan check because Zor Ledge is not checkable, and that's the only other thing close to the
Yeah.
Witch.
Adilor here might decide to check Bumper Cave, having picked up that cape and running out of options. The two big checks we haven't seen right now are Bumper Cave, Ledge, and the only accessible chest in Palace of Darkness. This flute, though, is coming at a pretty good time with a lot of cleanup on opposite sides of the map. So not having that flute is going to hurt Adilor.
Oh, yeah. And my worry for Adilor is going to be that he might be thinking, I have the mushroom, but I'll check it once I get the flute because it'll make it a very fast check.
Yeah.
That thought process is generally a good idea. However, when Witch has the flute, that's not going to work out very well.
Yeah, in my heart of hearts, I'm rooting for Carlson here. Both because of the stream issues. You always feel a little bad for that. But again, trying to put some points on the board for the team is it's an underdog story. Then again, Adilor also does not have any wins in the league yet, so both of these runners are still hoping to find that first win. So we'll see who gets it. Adilor is going back to check the Skull Woods big, since the big key did show up. This makes a lot of sense. Do that, and then go to Bumper Cave Ledge afterwards.
This will fully clear out the northwest side of Dark World for him, which will be nice.
Ooh, there it is. The mitts with the flute, that's Mire. So I expect our next thing to be in Mire, more likely than not.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Carlson walks right past those mitts. Can't pick them up yet. Doesn't have that big key.
It's also Dark Death Mountain.
Not quite yet. Not without the mirror or the hookshot.
They can go across the top and pick up the rock on the bottom. They can do Super Bunny.
They can't get to the top without the mirror. They can't get.
Right. Mirror, yes, correct.
Yeah, and again, that's a good point. Keeping in mind which items you need to get to certain areas it's a big part of the learning process of Rando. The difference between understanding how to clear a seed in one sitting and how to clear a seed efficiently is not making the mistakes of thinking you can do something that you can't. And I've done it a huge number of times. If I played more Key Sanity, the number of times that I would have tried to clear Eastern Palace without the Eastern Palace big key would be embarrassing. So it's a very important skill.
Even to the best of runners, though, sometimes in a race situation, you're worried about what you're doing, what the other racer's doing, where you're going, and you kind of forget. You do a checklist in your head for the items that you want to use, and you just forget one.
Yeah, I mean, just the other week, I saw a in the Invitational League, I saw a runner going to the back of Skull Woods here, goes all the way around to that chest underneath the starting door in the back area, and using the mirror instead of using the A button to open the chest. So I had to go there again. So it happens to the best of us. Adilor with those mitts, though, is able to start the Smith chain here. Another option I forgot about.
This is a very long walk without the mirror, so it'll be interesting to see if it pays off, but it is in logic. Small key to Turtle Rock.
You're not unhappy to see that.
No, but I don't think that paid off for what he was looking for.
Certainly not. It does allow the purple chest and hammer pegs, which I imagine we'll see at the same time. It is really unfortunate for Adilor that he hasn't gone to pick up that flute. Because I imagine Carlson might decide to do Meyer instead of Smith chain. So unless Adilor finds something here, Carlson is going to be able to have a little bit of an advantage here.
Yeah, it'll definitely depend on what's in those Meyer area checks. Especially along with potentially finding out which medallion will open up Meyer.
Yeah, I also don't remember where that Skullwood's big key showed up. So I'm kind of wondering when Carlson is going to find that. It's, again, a little unfortunate that Carlson is going here to Skullwoods before finding it. Because now it's going to kind of be in very much last location territory.
Yeah. I'm just... Nope. Hammer pegs is also nothing.
All right, so Adilor has one more chance for this the Smith chain first to pay off.
Just trying to think of if there's anything else Adilor can check in logic apart from the witch.
First chest of pods is the only one.
Yeah.
And again, that is a bad choice.
On a positive note for him, it does mean that he's going to be pushed towards where his flute is because he won't have another choice.
Yeah, for sure, I'd expect that mushroom check first.
But I mean, even if he doesn't, if he had 7 or 8 different checks right now, it would probably be a long time before he got up to the witch. So, yeah, like, if here the end of the Smith chain was something that opened up more items, it would take him a while to get back to the witch, I think.
Yeah, and sort of going back to that Turtle Rock Small showing up on Smiths, and that's another aspect of key sanity is, you know, you're often rewarded for being really thorough in your checks, because even if you last location something, you're likely to have found something along the way that's pretty big. Adilor showing off an not often used fake flipper here to get to the witch a little bit faster from a save and quit.
But it looks like he will do the witch, and he will find his flute.
Yeah, so going straight to the witch's hut here is about the only thing that particular fake flipper is useful for. So it's not something you see too often. Carlson in a kind of bad spot with these Gibdos here. Doesn't have enough magic to light those torches as Adilor picks up the flute and a little bit hopeful, thinking he has enough money to buy a blue potion. I would have probably done the same thing. You know, while you're there, pick up a blue. But yeah, so Adilor, I think, has a lead here. Because Adilor has both the flute and the mitts.
Carlson taking a death in that room. That room can be really rough.
Yeah. Early low percent Skullwoods, I think, is a really good thing for anybody hoping to try and up their game. Would do really, really well to practice Skullwoods at lower percent. Because again, anything that makes it easier right now, such as the ether that Carlson just used, that eats into your magic reserves, that kind of hurts for the boss fight. Again, Carlson had that green potion, but wants to save it for the boss fight. So having options in this part of the game can really, really help your time. Because, you know, if you really look at it, Carlson is losing a lot of time versus just walking straight through. And this is one of the most obvious places where execution plays a huge part, is Skullwoods. Given how early it is accessible in so many seeds, that's a really good spot to look at for anybody hoping to try and get their times down or get more consistency. Big place to look at.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This dungeon has a lot of small execution rooms that can be very difficult for newer runners as well.
So what do we find in that other chest? The hook shot or the mirror? It's the hook shot.
Well, that's sending us up Death Mountain, I think.
Yeah, slight lapse of judgment from Adilor there. Oh no, Adilor's actually going to go into Misery Mire here. I actually like this play. There's no small keys. but you don't need any small keys to full clear Misery Mire. If you have one, it can make it a little quicker, but given that the hookshot showed up, that's some nice thinking to decide to go into Misery Mire, and that's why you check the Mire Medallion before you check hookshot, or Mire Shed.
Mire Shed.
Because I was thinking, oh, the play here is to save and quit, go up to Dark Death Mountain, but while you're here, may as well dive in, because Misery Mire has a lot of small keys and chests, none of which are small keys in Key Sanity, so this could be very lucrative.
It definitely could. The one thing is that he won't be able to finish the dungeon because he's still missing that Cane of Samaria.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Mire is so rich in Key Sanity that I think it's a good play regardless. If you find the mirror in here, then you can pick up the Tempered Sword on your next mountain trip. If you don't find the mirror, then you can't. And I think even that possibility is worth it. It's, Tempered Sword and Gold Sword, the difference there isn't huge, but Master Sword to Tempered Sword, that's a huge time save in a lot of places. So the earlier you get Tempered Sword, the better.
100%, but like in this case, if that Tempered Sword, oh yes, we know it's up on Spectacle Rock, so we're looking for that. Right. Oh yeah, then knowing that's there, this does make sense.
Yeah, just give yourself as many chances as you can to find that mirror as soon as possible. And even if you don't find the mirror, hey, you can go mode Mire when you come back. It's not a big deal. That's sort of one of the ways that Mire is kind of a unique dungeon. In co-op, a lot of times you'll see runners dive into Mire without the Cane of Samaria. If it's not Key Sanity, worst case scenario, you might have to do a big key hunt in the dungeon anyway. So that way, when you come back, you can, go mode it, and when your partner goes there, they know where the big key is. It's not a bad dungeon to dip. The issue is you need a lot to access it. So
Skullwoods was a blue crystal. We just saw it come up on Carlson's screen.
Yeah. So, and another aspect of the Misery Mire dive I'd like to point out is the fact that it opens with the only medallion we have. That can be a pretty strong hint that something important is going to be there, since all of these checks that Adilor is doing are 100% completely in logic.
Yeah, they do have a lot of in-logic checks as of now, because that hookshot does open up a few things.
Carlson, what are you going to do? Flutes to 5. Okay, so if the first chest in Palace of Darkness is the answer, this is big for Carlson. To make a play like this, I would imagine that Carlson maybe is thinking about all that time lost in Skullwoods. Because this is a risky play. Only one check available here. I don't know if Carlson knows or has practiced the potion camera unlock to access those 2 extra chests.
It is a pretty simple move. It's very forgiving. Unlike a lot of the glitches that are pixel perfect or within 1 or 2 or 3 pixels, that one, as long as you're close, you can do it.
Yeah, it's all down to whether or not it's something that you have in your wheelhouse. Unfortunately, gets hit, loses Kiki. Fortunately, has the money to go back for it.
Yeah, that's a bit of an unfortunate time loss too, though.
Also, Grasshopper Sound in chat points out that with the hammer, that potion unlock does let you into the back. Unfortunately, that doesn't really get us anywhere without either the boots or a small key. The big thing keeping us away from Pod is not having a small key to get further in.
You don't need a key to get back into the main room, do you?
You might be able to get to the Stolfos basement and the broken bridge.
Yeah.
Anything else will require a small key. And you kind of have to go the long way for those. We'll see what Carlson gets from the first chest. As Misery Mire didn't pan out. So yeah, it looks like the answer here is Dark Death Mountain, as Adilor heads up there now.
Carlson's saving and quitting, not doing bottle glitch, so he did go in for 1 item.
Yeah, I do like the Misery Mire clear. However, hookshot over mirror as our Dark Death Mountain access does favor Dark Death Mountain being our progression, since all of those checks in Hookshot Cave are now in Logic. The other important thing is the right side of Death Mountain, which is a huge treasure trove, but yeah, going anywhere else after Meyer here makes 0 sense. So unfortunately, not the play to go to Pod there.
Getting red mail and a Pod Smulky.
Yep, that Pod Small is going to open, pardon the pun, is going to open a lot of doors for Adilor. It's going to open exactly one door, but it's a lot of options in Palace of Darkness, particularly if the arrows show up here.
And just skipped Waterfall Cave. I assume he did it earlier when he was having some stream issues. And it's a big key to Thieves Town. That makes that dungeon.
Yeah, we have seen the Thieves Town big. We haven't seen the Thieves Town small, so we can't get to the big chest.
But that opens up quite a bit in that dungeon.
Yeah, the one question is, does that big chest contain something we need to find?
Whether it does or doesn't in the end, it could point the runners towards coming in and grabbing everything else while they can complete a dungeon.
But yeah, this is a good spot for Adilor, cleaning up all of these really check-rich areas. Gets a dungeon clear in Tower of Hera here. It'll be kind of interesting to see if Adilor goes for the bomb setup for the Hera pot. I at this point, given that you're looking for items, I'd say just go up, use that big key that we found earlier. Don't bother with the Hera pot, but Hera pot can be faster if you get it quick.
If he's comfortable with it and knows he can get it first try, I think it's still better to do it. But if there's any doubt, yeah, just walking up with the big key is likely an easier option.
And that's also something you have to look at in these in the Open League matches versus, you know, if you watch the Invitational League matches. Sometimes with those top tier runners, you know, you just take it for granted that they're going to be able to execute some of these skips. But when your execution isn't quite on that level, it's sometimes you have to think about whether or not you want to go for something, because it could lose you time.
And Adilor deciding that he's just going to walk up.
For reference, this is what I would personally do.
Yeah, that's one glitch I actually haven't gotten around to learning yet. So
it's also a deceptively short dungeon. You save a lot of time with the Hera pot, but if you miss it even a time or two, then it kind of comes out in the wash.
Not using the hook shot?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a judgment error there. I
think he might have just forgotten that he can use the hook shot to get around that.
Yeah.
Because he was actually on the hook shot and switched off.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is that there's a lot of muscle memory. And especially in Key Sanity, the less you play Key Sanity, the less you have committed to memory, right? You know, for a lot of people who play a lot of standard rando, a lot of the things are just automatic. Like, you know the game state, so you know what your game plan is. With Key Sanity, sometimes you're thinking a little bit too much. You let the muscle memory take over. You've bomb jumped that gap so many times that you sort of, you know, glaze over it. The other thing to note is that without the boots, you can't bonk back over. So going up here the second time around makes a lot of sense. You don't have to come back upstairs again.
Oh, Desert Palace big key. That does make Desert Palace clearable. So I guess that's starting to put a lot of our dungeons here in Logic.
Yeah. Right now we're waiting on a bow to show up. That puts the as we were mentioning earlier, the Pyramid Fairy is one bow away from being in Logic. As we see Carlson struggling again in the back of Skull Woods. I think he gave up on this earlier.
He must have, because he's back in that same room, still having issues.
And again, that goes back to what I was mentioning earlier. Skull Woods is really a place to look at. If you can clutch Skull Woods, that's a huge boost to your game in Seeds where it matters. And if you can't, it's a huge detriment as Adilor finds the bow on Moldorm there. So that's huge for Adilor.
That allows him to be able to finish Eastern once we find the big key. And it will also allow him to get to the end of Pod once we find the big key and likely other keys, unless he's in go mode.
Yeah, of course, Adilor decides to clear out the rest of Death Mountain here. As I imagine, we're going to see Spiral Cave to Dark Death Mountain check.
As you mentioned earlier, every time you go up Death Mountain, you're taking some time, adding some time to your run. So I don't think he's going to want to come up any more than he has to.
Yeah, Adilor being able to do that first slightly shorter run with just a climb up to check the cave. Plus, just this where you can do everything at once. You're feeling pretty good about that. The sort of unfortunate aspect is you're probably going to have to come back up here for Turtle Rock later. Though, maybe not. We could be looking at a Turtle Rock dive right now if it's the Ether Medallion to open it. With that Cane of Samaria showing up there.
Cane of Samaria is definitely going to open some doors. It will make Ice Palace a little easier because it avoids having to do the bomb jump. And it will open up. Oh, Meyer is now completable. Turtle Rock, they can now dip. There's a lot open to Adilor now.
Yeah, meanwhile, Carlson now doing the front of Skull Woods. I think this is something that's also worth pointing out. A lot of the teams, especially in the Open League, have some runners that are pretty green to a lot of these modes. So we had a fairly infamous match, I think last week during Mystery Week, where I think it was TJ came out victorious in an 8-hour long mystery seed.
Yes, it was TJ. I commentated with him earlier in the week.
So sometimes, Key Sanity, if you don't play a lot of Key Sanity, some of these things can slip your mind. You realize, I'm not going to be finding a Skullwood small in Skullwoods, even if it's Key Sanity, but some of those things you assume, and you might have to make some weird choices. And there's the Quake Medallion showing up. We saw Turtle Rock was Quake earlier. So Adilor could dive into Turtle Rock right now.
Two keys, a Fire Rod, and Samaria. It does allow him access to a good portion of the dungeon.
Yeah, a lot of those checks are in logic. You can't full clear it, not without more keys. But those early fire-locked keys are
odd.
Pretty big. As we find the Dark Palace key.
That makes it technically completable. Now, I don't think he's going to want to rush straight to the back, but it is technically completable.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, you'd like to hold out until either it's your last option or you find a mirror. With the mirror, it's not actually too bad to rush pod. If you feel like you might be behind, I could see a runner deciding to go, all the way, go to pod, do pod Eastern just because it's an easy double clear and you get that Pyramid Fairy access. Adilor now going to Spike Cave instead of the Turtle Rock dip. Because Carlson was the one who did that earlier. We know this is just a piece of heart.
So I was thinking and looking, and I've realized that torch in Desert Palace has either our Ice Palace big or our Eastern big.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be extremely important or not important.
Yeah, especially with that Cane of Samaria showing up. Neither of our runners are going to have any desire to pick up the Ice Palace big.
Oh, it'll be nice for the big chest, but apart from that.
Yeah, now I get the play from Adilor to do Spike Cave there, right? Because with that cape showing up a little while back, it's been in logic for a while. And you sort of have to decide between that and the Turtle Rock dip, because going back for the Turtle Rock dip is a little bit too much of a time investment, especially when you don't have boots. But on the other hand, not doing Spike Cave there really, really orphans that check. And I can completely forgive Adilor for not wanting to do that.
I agree. I am curious where those boots will be when they pop up. We are still looking for the flippers as well. We will need them eventually for Swamp Palace.
Yeah, so Carlson heading into Desert here with the book that on the tracker he does not have, but in the game he clearly does. As Adilor heads into Thieves Town to do the back. Now, the back of Thieves Town has a grand total of 4 checks that are locked behind the back. One of them, however, is not in logic without the Thieves Town Small.
I am being reminded by chat that technically it can also be the GT big key as well, because I missed that we didn't have it.
And GT big would be rather big.
a bit of an important key. That said, we'll see what it is.
Yeah, we want to see those boots.
It's also a comfort thing, and for example, like Thieves Town with these moving platforms, it's just so much nicer if you have boots to avoid some of this walking. Adilor having a little bit of trouble with his hook shot, but getting through
that's one of the trickier hellways. Just because of the RNG of those pink star enemies, sometimes it's pretty nice, and sometimes it's just awful, and you always want to do it quickly.
What is Carlson doing?
Possibly Aga's Tower.
Oh,
as I mentioned earlier, that if you're a little less familiar with Key Sanity, that's one of the things that that you can forget is a thing. Because usually there's nothing up there, but in Key Sanity, there definitely is. There's 2 things up here.
Although I don't think Adilor found anything good up there.
So no, it's not important, but
Carlson doesn't know that yet.
Yeah, so right now, I think at this point, it's pretty safe to assume that that Carlson is suffering a little bit from inexperience in Key Sanity. Which, as we're sitting here from our ivory tower, is it's easy to think about some of these things because we have the freedom of considering the logic as we see it. But some of the little quirks, in the heat of the moment in the game, it's really easy to forget them just enough to lose a lot of time.
For sure.
The big issue here for Carlson, right, is not that these are bad checks to be doing, but remembering them at the wrong time means that you end up with a lot of extra movement between your checks. Actually, that was incredibly important. The big Skullwood's big was that second Aga's Tower check, so that's going to be the mitts for Carlson.
So it was extremely important to get up there.
Yeah, so actually,
It's been quite a while since Adilor got up there, so
yeah.
It's easy for us, even as commentators, to forget that that's where that was.
So to amend what I was saying earlier, it's entirely possible that, with what little we've seen of Carlson's stream, that could have been the last possible thing. That could have been a last location there.
Yeah, very well could have. Adilor off script, but gets his blind fight down, getting himself a
Flippers.
We don't know, but they're the flippers, and it's crystal. But the flippers are going to open up Swamp Palace for him.
Also, Ice Palace. Swamp Palace actually isn't open. No mirror. This is a very late mirror. We haven't seen it yet.
I mean,
I would expect
Palace was open to these runners anyways due to the fake flipper to get in there.
Now it's in logic. So now there's the opportunity to find the mirror in there.
That is true.
Right now, what these runners need to find, keys notwithstanding, is Ice Rod and Mirror. And then they can finish the game. Again, plus the rest of the keys. So, yeah, Carlson taking that big key straight to the chest. Going to find the mitts, and unfortunately, he's going to be quite a bit behind Adilor here. I do like the choice here to go to Ice Palace first for Adilor. Because as we saw, Thieves Town gave him another Turtle Rock Small. It would be really nice to be able to clear Turtle Rock when you go up there rather than just diving in there to try to find items.
Oh, definitely. I see we've picked up quite a few new viewers over the last little while, so welcome. And for your reference, this is an all Dungeons Key Sanity race.
Every dungeon needs to be cleared. All of the keys are everywhere. It's a big mess. Carlson taking the vanilla route to the big chest. Not confident enough in the bomb jump. And again, that kind of difference between the two runners, that's just extra time that Adilor gets for free, basically. Because Adilor was able to successfully perform the bomb jump, just go right in there and grab that big chest. And Carlson has to spend probably a good 40 to 60 seconds on that.
That bomb jump without boots is quite finicky, though, unless you're comfortable with it. So I can see where some runners will have issues, especially if they're used to bonking to get that extra little bit of room.
Speaking of sequence breaks here, Adilor is about to perform the icebreaker.
Almost.
It's a method of basically, if you position yourself on the exact right pixel, get yourself inside of that block, move left for a single frame, it extends the door state. Now, doors aren't actually empty ground. Doors are a specific kind of property of the wall, right? So it always tries to move you out of the doorway. So if the game considers you to still be in a doorway, it just keeps moving you out of the doorway all the way until you're on regular ground again. And so you sort of bridge that gap with the Samaria block and push all the way through the wall to the other side. And it makes Ice Palace from a very backloaded dungeon to a very front-loaded dungeon.
It also means you don't have to go in circles twice to actually complete it, unless you know the bomb jump as well.
Yeah, and so Adilor goes backwards here through to Ice-T, having hit the switch first. If you hit the switch, then you can't actually get to Ice-T the sort of slightly more efficient vanilla way, because the switches are in the wrong state. If you spend that key, you can get right here. Adilor has enough keys that he's comfortable doing that, so he goes right there. We're seeing a full clear of Ice Palace at this point.
Yeah, which I think is well, everything it looks like but the big chest, because we have not yet found that big key. It could still be the one sitting on a desert torch.
Yeah, Ice Palace Big is missing. Also worth noting, Adilor does not have half magic or bombos, so Adilor will need all of that magic or a potion refill in order to start the Cold Stare fight. And flipping a switch does help in that regard. If you flip the switch, then you can do the vanilla state, the vanilla method of accessing this boss chamber, push the block down. You can bypass it in logic with the Cane of Samaria, but that costs a little bit of magic that, in a lot of circumstances, you might like to hold on to. Adilor does have the green potion here. Might opt to go for the refill room on the right. Doesn't. Green potion is what he's going to use. Yeah, because that magic refill isn't quite enough. You need a full bar of magic to thaw out Cold Stare with the Fire Rod. So we're going to see Adilor use the Fire Rod here and then drink the potion to finish the job.
The nice thing about this is that it'll give him a little bit of extra magic for his actual fight as well.
Yeah, certainly that's nice without the Tempered Sword, at least. Takes a lot of hits with the Master Sword.
Some nice hits in where he got multiple puffs in the corner there. Just finishing up the last puff now. Much easier.
The red mail is also very helpful here too. A lot less risk in this boss fight, because this is a boss fight that can turn sour very quickly if you're at green mail and anything less than Tempered Sword, because the vanilla game expects you to be at blue mail and Tempered Sword at this point.
But he does complete it, gets another crystal. That'll be 3 crystals for him. We're still not sure which our pendants are, because we still haven't found out on our last which of our last 4 dungeons are pendants and which are crystals.
Yeah, so it's between Desert Palace, Swamp Palace, Mire, and Turtle Rock. Mire, again, is full clearable. Adilor returns to the mountain briefly to call the duck, and goes to a potion shop. Probably to buy some potions.
Saving a little bit of money, getting a green.
Yeah, noticed nice heads up from realizing earlier that he didn't have enough for the blue. This time realizes, I don't have enough for 2 blues. Let's get a green and a blue. And comes back.
He's remembered that there is a key on Zorledge.
Yep, it could be an important key. We do need to find... Let's see, we have 3 Turtle Rock Smalls. But we'd like to find some more Pod Smalls. So if that's a Pod Small, then Pod becomes a pretty nice play at this point.
Adilor completed Tower of Hera, right?
Yes. Yes, because that was where the Moldorm gave him something big. It was the
Flippers. It was the Flippers, wasn't it? Or no, that was Blind. I was pretty sure he was in the Moldorm room. I just wanted to make sure. So he's actually
it was the bow. That was where he got the bow.
Oh, the bow. Yeah. Okay. So 4 crystals.
Yeah. So with that bow, if this is a Pod Small, then that's a pretty significant portion of Palace of Darkness, very logically accessible.
Yeah. Out of the small keys, I think the runners are looking for, hoping it's a pod key.
Yeah, we kind of have all the rest we'd like. If it's a Thieves' Town Small... there we go, Pod Small. Thieves' Town Small would have been very upsetting. Because then you have to consider, okay, do I go back into Thieves' Town for the big chest? That's a long check after you've completed that dungeon.
Looks like we might be getting a Turtle Rock dip. 3 keys means he's going to have to leave a chest. Nope, he's just going from the food.
Yeah, Carlson hasn't done the Hookshot Cave yet, so it doesn't have Quake.
Oh, I was looking at Adilor's side, starting up at Mountain Cave, but he.
Interesting though. I wonder if Carlson's going to. It's something I know I would be considering after seeing Quake show up in here. Carlson decides to walk off the edge, probably on accident. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt there. It's rarely a strat that saves any time.
So while Adilor is making his way in a pod, and
I just noticed something. Only 66 rupees here.
Oh!
Adilor realized it.
He just noticed it too as it started draining.
Yeah, it's a little rough. I wonder if we check the stun prize. If it's 20 rupees, he might be able to get away with it, but
not checking the stun. He's just trying to get the money from kills.
Yeah. That one's... He had enough to think about the potions. If only he hadn't bought one of those, he'd have had enough. Oof.
He was thinking about conserving his money for potions, but he forgot that he still had one more thing he had to pay for.
I mean, to be fair, the decision to go to Pod was a lot more cemented after picking up the item on Zorledge, which was the Pod Small. So, Adilor deciding to give up on that for the moment. Let's do the TR dip.
So, as Adilor is going through to his dungeon and Carlson is starting up, going the same direction, I'm just going to remind our viewers to follow the runners. They've been putting on a good show, doing their best here.
Yeah, despite some technical issues here and there, we do have a race on our hands going. It's a little choppy, but we can see what's going on both sides, which is... all we really need. Adilor is going to be heading towards TR here again. I'm not sure. I think this is a better play than, grinding some rupees and going back. However, I'm saying that with the advantage of knowing that Adilor does have a lead here. So this could be an opportunity for Carlson to make up some time if Pod is the correct play.
With 3 keys, Adilor can clear quite a bit of Turtle Rock. We are still looking for that mirror, and we are still looking for that ice rod.
Yeah, and mirror is an item that makes both the Pod play and the Turtle Rock play a little bit nicer. Pod benefits a little bit more, actually, just given the way you can route the dungeon with the mirror. And with TR, it's mostly for that Mimic Cave opportunity later on.
Pods routing with the mirror is significantly more friendly because that dungeon has a lot of long paths. On the other hand, with the low keys, they may not want to unlock that front door, so we'll see how they decide to play that.
Yeah, and with the bow in hand, saving the key with the bow lock side is a very real possibility. And there's the Thieves' Town Small.
Oh, he did not want to see that.
Yeah, that any item that opens up any check here could mean that this was required to get the mirror.
True.
You know, if boots show up, mirror could be in Bonk Rocks. If the shovel shows up, mirror could be there.
Shovel will lead to something, potentially, but I think the runners would be happy with the boots just to at least finish, but the thing is, I think both runners, if they find the boots somewhere, are going to be thinking, what if the other runner checked this a lot earlier than I did?
Yeah, it kind of depends where the boots end up being. Right now, it's not looking like the boots are accessible very easily. I'm very interested to see if we get a map check from Adilor after this TR dip, because we did see the Swamp Palace map. And I think that's enough, potentially, to cement the knowledge of our last two pendants. If it's a crystal, that doesn't necessarily tell us, but if it's a pendant, then that can be pretty significant information. Because if Swamp Palace is a pendant, then the mirror could be in Ganon's tower.
Yep. That would be... Can you imagine if Turtle Rock is our other pendant and you've got both Mirror and Ice Rod in GT?
Yeah, that's entirely possible here. So Adilor might be saving himself a little bit of trouble if he finds out that you have a required Turtle Rock dip to clear the rest of your crystal dungeons to get the item required to fully clear Turtle Rock. Adilor opts to not check Lava Bridge. I think it just because of that low key count. There are a lot more checks that you can do after this point with 2 keys than you can with 1 plus the lava chest.
I think this is the right play in terms of checking the most number of items. Unfortunately, we won't know if that 1 chest is worth anything until later. Just wondering what Adilor is. Okay, yeah. He came back in for the pot.
I think waffling over whether or not to go this route. It's nice to go this route when you can route in Mimic Cave with it. Right now, that's not a possibility since we don't have the mirror.
He will get the big chest when he wants.
You do get the big chest. And ultimately deciding that the possibility of routing those 2 checks together isn't worth the possibility that the mirror is right here. Shovel.
That gives us 1 more check.
It potentially important that he didn't skip it, so it's a silver lining to look for. That when you're waffling between 2 decisions, you're desperate for anything that justifies the one you made. Carlson picks up the bow here, and will likely go and actually, Carlson already did the Dark World here. Interestingly, before doing the Tower of Hera. A little unfortunate since without the mirror, that's a bit inefficient, I'll say.
We did find the Cane of Berna on Adilor's side. They already have the cape, so it's not too helpful for them at the moment.
Yeah, it's not very significant. However, Adilor does have Laser Bridge coming up, and without half magic, the cane is a little bit more comfortable for that. Yeah, now Carlson is going to Spiral Cave, which, if you recall, will lead him to the Cane of Samaria. So we'll see if Carlson decides to make the Turtle Rock dip after finding that. It's not going to be as good of a dip because currently only the 1 small key. There's the Ice Rod on Adilor's side.
Adilor doing Laser Bridge with the cape.
And that being the case, you see that one small key still in Adilor's inventory there. That's a full clear.
That'll either be the key for the boss or be the key for the big key chest. There's 2 more key doors.
Right, but I mean not a full clear in terms of checks, but a full clear in terms of bosses, which is what matters in all dungeons.
Yeah.
So in this situation, you take the clear, just in case it's the right play, because if it's not the right play, then it's just a crappy seed anyway. And if it is the right play, then you've got a big time advantage. If you spend that small key anywhere else, you've got to find another one in order to clear this dungeon.
Oh yeah, 100%. If you can actually clear the boss, it is worth getting there. But hammer strats. But he will have stranded that 1 check, actually 2 checks, because Mimic Cave, which he can't do, but is a check.
Yeah, at this point, though, we've also seen the big key to Eastern Palace show up. Adilor's got to be careful here. Doesn't have the half magic. He does have those potions, though, so I guess not too bad. Opts to go for the slightly more reliable Master Sword strats.
Yeah. Going with a green instead of the blue. Willing to risk his health here.
With red mail, I'm not too worried. He can't take another hit, though.
Nope, that was it. Okay, he hopefully should be fine. If he does this setup correctly, he will be fine. As Carlson heads to the back of Desert. Something we actually haven't seen from Adilor yet. Adilor takes a hit.
Did Adilor? No, has the fairy.
Oh, he has the fairy. Okay, so that's why he used the green instead of the blue.
That's why he wasn't worried.
That makes sense.
Chloe had it. Chloe knew what was up.
Yeah. I must have looked away when he got that. Must have been looking at Carlson. Oh no, you know what? I did. He got it in Ice Palace. He caught it. He powdered in Ice Palace to get it.
Right, well, Carlson heading to the back of Desert Palace here. Gonna get one more boss. We see Turtle Rock was a crystal, not a pendant. We haven't seen the map check yet, so we haven't seen what swamp is.
So Mire, Swamp, and Desert. We're going to find out what Desert is, and that should now tell us where our pendants are. If this is a crystal. If it's a pendant, that doesn't.
Yeah, we also haven't seen a pedestal check. At this point, nothing crucial can be on pedestal. Unless, of course, GT Big Key is on Desert. Oh, Mirror can't be on pedestal if Swamp Palace is
But we don't know what Swamp Palace is.
We don't know what Swamp Palace is. We could if Adilor pressed Y.
Yeah. But if Swamp is a crystal, it could be...
If Swamp is a crystal, then yes.
It could be Mirror.
Either way, I think Adilor is making the right choice here. In the absence of Mirror, going straight for the Eastern Palace clear. Going to get that 5/6 crystal. See what we get from the boss. And probably check Pyramid Fairy.
I agree. There's a lot of good checks right there. Carlson getting a piece of heart from Lanmolas and getting a pendant.
All right, so the possibilities here are now Misery Mire or Swamp Palace.
One is a crystal, one is a pendant.
One of them, notably, if Misery Mire is the last pendant, then Mirror very well could be on the pedestal because Misery Mire is fully clearable in Logic right now.
Yep. Beyond that, I'm just trying to think if there's any other items that we need. I don't.
Possibly boots. The only other thing we need is maybe the boots if the big key in Desert is not for Ice Palace.
Yeah. It's 50-50 now. It's either going to be Ice Palace or it's going to be GT. I think Adilor is going to be hoping that that's the Ice Palace key so that he's effectively going to be in go mode soon.
Yeah, right now this is a pretty sizable lead for Adilor. Just in terms of dungeon clears, has TR, Ice Palace, Thieves Town over Carlson. And is ahead in Eastern Palace. Carlson changes his mind about Eastern.
Should be a pretty quick fight against Armos Knights. I wanted to say Lanmolos again. That's not right. I said pretty quick. That was very quick.
Yeah, it misses the quick kill. Misses the quick kill on that last Armos Knight, but still very well done. Had, a few arrows to spare. And that's our second 5/6 crystal. So we'll see if Adilor decides to take that directly to the pyramid.
So to answer your question in chat, yes, we need GT big key, we need mirror, we need a CT small key, and potentially more pod keys depending on position, but they can finish it if they find the other 3.
And I think we need... You can get up to the top of the Ganis Tower climb with 1 small key, right? You just need 2 to skip the Helma.
Yes, you only need 1 to finish it, assuming you don't have to get anything else from GT. So
which is something that's kind of unique to Key Sanity, is sometimes you can just enter GT and go straight up. The boots under the shovel. Boots locked in basically behind the big key of TR. Wow, that's those are some deep boots, that's what I'll say.
Adilor going straight to finding out what that big key is. He has the big key to desert. He knows he can complete it. He knows there's a big key in here. That is a very good choice.
Yeah, I like that over rushing the pyramid. Because again, if you've got dungeons to clear, you go and clear those dungeons. I wouldn't be surprised to see Adilor go straight to Misery Mire after this and clear that one too. So Adilor's got, only Desert Palace, Misery Mire, Swamp, and Pod.
GT!
So that was the one we needed. So Carlson is going to have to find that first.
So we're looking for a CT. Oh. Yep. Continue.
Yeah, so just is going to have to go to TR, get the shovel, get the boots. So yeah, not looking great for Carlson. Usually the runner that's behind in Key Sanity has to hope that there is a quick route. And unfortunately, with that chain there's really no quick way to get to the end game of the seed.
Yeah, unfortunately, Carlson's already come in, I think, and done all of Desert. So that's going to be kind of a lone check that's going to be left. And he'll have to do the shovel lone check to get there. That's not going to be a high priority for him.
Yeah, and right now Carlson is basically... The only hope for Carlson here is a huge Galaxy Brain on the second CT small. If it's somewhere that Adilor last locations and Carlson just finds it right away, that could be some big time save. But right now, they're both so locked by mirror that there's not a huge chance that Carlson is going to find that first.
Yeah, I would say that he could try to find the mirror somewhere, but everything that Adilor has checked is pretty much all of the things that Carlson would have to do to get to somewhere where that mirror could be.
Yeah, there's just not enough. The only real hope for finding mirror would be a pod dip, because Adilor hasn't been to pod. Maybe Adilor went to pod briefly. I think Carlson already dipped pod though, so there's basically zero chance of Carlson doing that again.
Carlson picked up 1 chest in pod. Adilor tried to go to pod and didn't have enough money to pay.
Right, yeah. So Adilor hasn't been to pod at all. Carlson already picked up the 1. Carlson might go back, but again, with some of the stuff that's been showing up for Carlson, there are going to be better options than making a second not clearable pod dip.
He's got a lot of options here. I'm pretty sure he went to Spiral Cave and picked up the Cane of Samaria. So with the Cane of Samaria, he could just go and do Ice Palace.
Yeah, I imagine at this point we see Ice Palace and then and maybe TR from Carlson. Might decide to clear Eastern Palace and check Pyramid. But no, can't do that because Big Key is in Laser Bridge. It's always the Eastern Palace Big Key that I forget about.
You did say that at the starting of the stream, and it has been consistent.
I've done it. I think every single race I've commentated this week. I've forgotten about specifically the Eastern Palace Big. Small key to Turtle Rock. Not going to be needing that one anymore.
So we're basically looking for the mirror and the CT small. You want any idea? Want to hazard a guess on where it might end up being? Either one.
I mean, it's kind of a rough guess, right? Because Swamp's got a fair amount of checks in it, but so does Ganon's Tower. So it kind of all comes down. We see Adilor going towards Meyer now. So once we know whether this is a crystal or a pendant, then we've got some options we can work with. Because if Misery Mire here is a crystal, the mirror could be in GT. Because that puts us in GT mode.
I think if this is a crystal, then there's a good likelihood of mirror somewhere in GT. The only problem with that is we only have one GT key.
However, if this is a pendant, given that we only have one Ganon's Tower small key, and our access to different parts of GT is fairly limited right now. Ooh, Adilor, I wouldn't have skipped those 5 arrows if I were you. You got Vitreous coming up. Anyway, if this is a pendant, mirror could very well be on the pedestal.
True, neither has checked it yet.
Because we don't have a mirror.
Yeah. There's really no reason to be up in that corner. Well, even now, even with the mirror, there would be no reason to be up in that corner.
Yeah, so if it is there, you'd have to be thinking pretty hard about this. Okay, do you go to GT and hope that it's one of the checks that you can get to up there? Or take the fact that you have such limited access of GT as a hint that maybe, just maybe, it's on the pedestal. And of course, that really only comes up if Misery Mire here is indeed a pendant. The pendant of power.
It can still be in pod. Somewhere
it could. That's. I think rushing pendant is a choice you'd make if you're in Carlson's position and you need to find something right now. But
pod, we only have 2 keys, so we have access to some of it. But which part do they decide to go and do is the question.
Yeah, if you've practiced your hammer yump and know you can do it, you go ahead and go to the back because you can get everything there with just the one small, other than Harmless Hellway. Yep, Adilor unfortunately only has 4 arrows for this fight, so that's not gonna. This is gonna be a little slow.
Cape dash strats.
Yeah, I would without half magic. I would go for the slash. When you have the cape out and you're slashing, your magic actually doesn't deplete.
Yeah,
so would have been able to get more hits in with that.
See, I think he tried to switch to that at the last second, and then he just stopped dashing a little too late.
Yeah, I don't like the dash strats with anything short of Tempered Sword. Tempered Sword using the cape and spins is the fastest strat, but sometimes how cool the dash strats are make it worth it to do that instead. And that's all of the arrows. So if Adilor had picked up those 5 arrows from the Wizard room, would have had enough to take care of the eye right here and now.
Yeah, Vitreous is a bit of a long fight if you're on Master Sword. Gotta make sure he times all his hits right, not to get hit. But gets his piece of heart and his crystal.
Okay, so if that was a pendant, that could have been really good news for Carlson. Unfortunately, since it's not, really now, the best place to look for mirror is either in a pod dip, which Carlson is very unlikely to make, or in Pyramid Fury, which Carlson has to do TR to get.
Well, Pyramid Fairy needs Tower of Hera and Eastern. Oh, yeah.
or
to get the
GT, because GT is open now.
yeah, but GT is definitely GT. I think is going to be a decent play. I know we only have one key, but
I think we're gonna see Bonk Rocks here. Or not Bonk Rocks, rather. Well, maybe Bonk Rocks. We didn't. I don't think we saw it. But King's Tomb here, because that's been in Logic since we got the boots. I think Adilor had too many dungeons to consider doing Bonk Rocks. But I imagine we see it now. Because there's no hope that Mirror is going to show up and you can route all three of those in together. So you just get these two done and then head up to GT. Anything to give you a little extra boost. If you find another small key, great. Maybe you can get to the mirror without having to potentially come back. If you find the mirror, cool. Finish off your last two dungeons. We might actually see Adilor finish pod before going up GT.
Well, we'll find out where he's fluting to. While Carlson is going through Mire. Not a room we see a lot.
Yeah, I almost would have preferred going to pod first here, because you have to do it anyway. And if the mirror shows up somewhere in there, you really save a lot of time, because you can then do Swamp before you do GT and just do GT, Aga's Tower, and then you're out. GT is fairly dense, though.
Is fairly dense, and on the other hand, if you don't know Hammer Yump, then there aren't that many checks that you can do in pod. That Hammer Yump does give them an extra 3 checks. If they can get another 2 to 3 pod smalls in GT, it could also make that dungeon full clearable.
Yeah, but at this point, at this late in the seed, you're not so much interested in a full clear as you are in getting those go mode items and getting them efficiently. And I think personally in this situation, I would take the chance of getting the go mode mirror and castle tower small somewhere in where you can get to in pod, than taking this pretty long trek up to GT with only one small. Because it's possible that what we're looking for in GT is locked behind another small that's in pod.
Yeah, it very well could be. But it could also be the other way around. There could be a pod small key in here.
Yeah, I just think that given the fact that you can logically get to more keys in the key logic is assuming you're wasting your key. There's our last sword, by the way. You're wasting your key, right, on the front entrance, which right now we know we can get past. The key logic in pod could require you to get a pod key in here and then get the GT small. But the GT small that we might need could be available with the pod keys that we do already have.
Or is doing tile room first.
In Key Sanity, not a bad play here. Again, get what you can with the one GT small you have.
You can get a lot more on the left side. So we'll see if he goes
right,
over there.
But you go over to the left side after you do this. I feel like you do this knowing that you can only clear some of GT right now anyway. And if you get what you need from Tile Room, that's really huge.
Oh, it's definitely huge, but it is
and it's the silvers.
Big time loss if it's not something good, but that is definitely worth the time loss.
Even if Carlson manages to make up this deficit now, I don't think Adilor is really in a position to lose, because I can't see a world where, I mean, maybe there's a world where Carlson makes the play hoping it's something other than silvers. But Carlson would need it to be something other than silvers. Otherwise, Carlson's probably going to skip that, because Carlson would be in go mode at that point.
Yeah, I think it's a check that Carlson won't make, so that will give Adilor a little bit more of an advantage than he already has. It's
the GT small and GT.
That helps.
Also worth noting, I believe there are rules that guarantee a certain amount of chests in Ganon's tower are junk checks, no matter what, regardless of what the logic could or could not put there, just to prevent the unlikely scenario of a whole bunch of required items being up in GT because nobody really wants to play that seed.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that portion really, so
Yeah, I think it's a
sounds
thing. I
about
don't
right.
know
I did
anything
hear
more than that.
I heard something similar, but I'm not sure. Maybe
Boomerang
somebody in chat
strats!
will fill in. Ooh,
Let's go,
nice.
Adilor.
Adilor continuing to clear through his GT. We're still looking for that CT small.
Yeah,
And
notable, since we picked up that one small key, that plus the guaranteed one under the pot, or rather the skull, means that Adilor can actually clear a lot of GT right now. Adilor can get all the way to the compass room.
This could end up being very good for him if there's something good in here. There's okay, so they have a lot of health.
Adilor could get all the way to compass room and pick up the key to be able to do the climb afterwards, which I think we might see Adilor do just because the climb is possible and you need to do it eventually anyway. You may as well do it while you're up here. That way you don't have to go back to the mountain.
No, that dark mountain climb is long. We get the bonk. We do. Meanwhile, Carlson is fighting Vitreous. Also using cape, but as you mentioned, he's using sword slashes to try to lengthen the lengthen that magic bar.
Also, notable Adilor with the presence of mind to not just muscle memory through GT and check that big chest, because it's this is the best time to check it before you bonk over here.
Also taking a hit and dying to Vitreous. He's going to be going back in with no magic this time.
Yeah, that's rough.
I
don't remember what our prize pools are. If he's going to get any magic here.
Even just going through and getting all the way there, that's going to be a big time loss from the position he's in. So just about what you were talking about, the junk prefill is there's 1 to 15 items that are automatically generated at first before everything else is placed.
Yeah, so with 2 pod smalls in GT, I feel like that tells me that there are going to be some GT smalls in pod. Because that to me sounds like it's just coverage for in case you spend your keys like a nitwit. Adilor opting to go up the tower here rather than going compass room.
It's a risk. We'll see how it pans out. With 4 keys, technically with Hammer Yump, they can full clear pod now.
Yeah, and maybe that's factoring into the decision, knowing it's like, okay, you can full clear pod. Let's just go up rather than spending quite a bit of time to go all the way to compass room. I feel like compass room is still the better play.
I agree. I think
4 checks.
And the thing is, if you don't do compass room now, you finish this, and something ends up being in there, you're still going to have to do this climb again.
Yeah, might be a little bit unfamiliar with that route enough to not remember the that there's a free small key right afterwards.
Bernadette.
And maybe doesn't want to go right side thinking, oh no, I don't want to spend my key and not be able to finish the climb. And maybe forgetting that there's a small key. I feel like that's the only scenario in which you don't do compass room here, because those 4 chests are so quick to get to right now that you don't. Because if you clear when you full clear the tower climb, it doesn't dump you out in front of the tower. You can't go right back in. You got to climb the mountain again. So if the mirror is in there, it's a big time loss to go back and get it.
Well, hopefully we can remember to ask at the end if he joins us for an interview.
Like how we say, hopefully we can remember, because that's really the hope. Hopefully we
Well-
remember to ask these important questions. By the time the seed ends, you usually forget them. All of the great things you were going to ask.
When the seed is 2 hours, 2.5 hours long, you start getting questions from 20 minutes in, and it's hard to remember every single thing the runners did. A lot of the time, they bring up the same things that we're asking about because they realize what they did. Perfect
Nice.
Limolas, though.
Yeah, that's non-trivial. It looks easy when you get it right, but the timing those arrows is pretty tricky, because if your timing is slightly off, RNG can still help you a little bit, but the more off your timing is, the more you need them to go exactly in the right spot. Carlson at one tight spot. Nope.
Carlson at 1 health, not using his cape. Not sure why he didn't. Oh, he's got a fairy.
He's got the fairy.
I'm still wondering if he's going to pull out the cape now.
Adilor robbed of justice by that hallway there. On the other hand, Adilor, or rather, Carlson does have enough arrows to just spam the arrow button.
Definitely the easier way to defeat that boss.
Yeah, it takes 8 regular arrows. Adilor decides to go for the heart and the magic refill, and wait out the jingle, rather than changing floors at the same time that the jingle goes off. Which despawns all of the enemies, which would be bad for him in a couple ways. Number 1, he wouldn't be able to finish the dungeon. Number 2, he wouldn't be able to pick up that small key. He gets the mirror, though, in the GT climb, so that gamble paying off.
Oh, now the CT small key will be our go mode, and it can be in any chest, anywhere.
Yeah. Ideally, if it's not in this chest or the post-Moldorm chest, the best case scenario for Adilor, it's in Pyramid Fairy. Or Pod, of course, because that's going to be cleared as a matter of course after this.
Mirror and Mini Helmasaur is just such a rude place for the randomizer to have put that.
Of course, it's also possible that Adilor has briefly spaced on the fact that it's all dungeons. I don't want to put thoughts in his head, but it's not inconceivable.
Should be thinking he's got his 7. I don't know. Unless he forgot, because he wasn't checking the maps. Like, he purposely was ignoring the maps a lot of this run.
Yeah, I mean, if that was the case, then he would have gone straight up the tower. Honestly, he wouldn't have checked any of the basement at all, because, again, the only things we've needed for a while have been things we needed for those last dungeons.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure he knows it's all dungeons. He just... I don't know why he didn't check Compass Room, but it ended up, unless the CT small key is there, which it still could be.
Now, meanwhile, Adilor on to Aga 2 as Carlson is making that pod dip.
So to anyone that's been joining us partway through this race, this is an all dungeons key sanity seed, and all we need for go mode on Adilor's side is 1 single CT small.
Yeah, and right now it's in a pretty good place. Adilor's checked 1 chest in pod. I really don't see a way that Carlson could. The only way Carlson wins this is if that CT small is in Compass Room and Adilor last locations it.
Yeah. To answer chat as well, yes, Carlson's been having a little bit of technical issues, so that's what's causing a bit of the display. Just what it is for today.
Yeah, I will take this over the black screen that we had for the first 20-30 minutes of the race. So
yeah,
we still have a race. We thought about canceling it, but we decided no. We're good enough. We can keep it interesting with just 1 runner's feed. So we can bring this all to you right now.
Carlson doing those pod checks. This is going to be interesting. He may tell us what's in pod before Adilor gets there.
Yeah, I wonder. In this situation, would it be better for Adilor to do pod or swamp first?
I mean, he can go straight to the swamp boss, but that doesn't help because he's still looking for something.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters. There's a lot of chests in both.
This is maybe one of the rare scenarios in All Dungeons Key Sanity where it's a justifiable choice to skip left side swamp. A lot of the time, you don't do that in All Dungeons Key Sanity, just because it's usually not worth it. But right now, we're in the rare scenario that you're in Swamp Palace doing it and only have one item from Go mode.
Yeah, I don't know. I think one of the reasons I can see him doing Swamp in general first is he knows he can actually full clear this. If he doesn't know Hammer Yump, he will be thinking he cannot full clear Pod yet. So if he doesn't know that jump, then he could be hoping that there is a small key in here that will let him full clear Pod.
No, no, yeah, the Hammer Yump is required for the full clear on 4 keys. You're right.
Yep. 5. He needs 5 if he doesn't know that particular glitch, and that is a very finicky glitch that you do need to practice a little bit if you want to pull it off consistently.
Yeah, I mean it's a regular bomb jump. The problem is you don't really have time to set it up. A pod small in pod on Carlson's side. And the Ganon's Tower map. So Carlson with that map is going to be able to know where the compass room is, which apparently Adilor forgot. There is no small part of me that's secretly hoping that is where our CT small is. Also, shoutouts to Adilor getting the largely pointless hookshot to that pot there.
This is definitely turning into a very interesting end game for these runners.
Yeah, that pod small does actually also put that the full clear in logic.
Yes, it does. I don't
think
he has enough,
Carlson,
though.
right? Yeah. It does help out though.
He won't have it until he gets into GT and picks up those keys.
So this dip is good for Carlson if the thing is in here. If it's in here. Otherwise, if it's in Hellway, for example, he can't really afford to go to Hellway.
I mean, in Carlson's case, I think the best case for him is that it's in Compass Room and that he checks it. That would be what gives him...
There it is. That's actually pretty okay for Carlson.
Sorry, it was in the big chest?
Yeah, big chest. So pod, big chest. So Carlson's going to finish off pod here.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's that good for him, while Adilor is having some issues with this.
It does... The big sticking point is where the mirror is. Because Carlson still needs to find the mirror. Unfortunately, it's at the top of Ganon's tower. So the biggest play for Carlson right now would be to go straight up the Ganon's tower.
The thing is, as far as we know, Carlson still needs 4 dungeons, and Adilor only needs 2, and Adilor will be checking chests along the way. So it is likely that he's going to find that CT small key before Carlson is able to catch up. And yes,
even a last location at this point would be because Carlson has to go up to Turtle Rock to get the big key to Eastern to clear that in order to go to GT to get that Go mode mirror. So it's not really looking good for Carlson, unfortunately.
I think at about 2 hours we're now in no mode, and we definitely can put Adilor in the lead here. I can't think of a reason that Adilor won't check that chest. He will have 5 keys, won't need to glitch to it. He's got lamp. There's no reason for him not to get it while he's in that dungeon.
And Carlson will probably find that tempered sword in GT. I don't think either runner is going to be picking up the gold sword at this point, since you need to go all the way up to the top of Ganon's tower and then go up to Spectacle Rock, which there's no reason to do.
Yeah, definitely not worth the time. Tempered does not help the Ganon fight, or Gold Sword does not help the Ganon fight that much more than the Tempered.
Yeah, especially with Silvers, which Adilor definitely has. Carlson, jury's still out.
Adilor getting a pretty quick diver down on the other side. It's another use of using Samaria to clip through a rail, just to speed things up a little bit. There's our Bombos. Wow. That We were basically not supposed to have Bombos this game.
And that's a full inventory for Adilor.
Oh, it is.
Well, so let's think about what our final check count is going to be, because it's going to be pretty high. Adilor hasn't checked Lumberjack Cave, didn't get the item on the Bumper Cave Ledge, 4 checks in GT.
I don't think he did Pyramid Fairy.
Pyramid Fairy and whatever he skips in Pod.
Were there any other big chests that we didn't get to?
I don't think so.
I don't think we ever went back for Ice Big Chest, for example.
Oh yeah, Ice Big Chest. You're right.
He did go back for Skull Woods. Era, they had it. Yeah. Oh, there's our half magic. Wow, that's
so
late.
My guess is we're gonna see a number above 200 in that completion rate.
Yeah, very well could be. This game, with the way it's doing it, at the end, right before you finish, here's half magic and Bombo, so now you can go delete rooms.
Well, even then, I mean, I don't know if you want to use Bombos like that, just because of how slow it is. And of course, making this nice check over here with Mirror, you can check this tablet.
Yeah. Definitely the good play while he's here. It can't be anything that he'd want, but... I mean, an extra heart never hurts, but... Oh, yes, it does seem we lost Carlson's stream again temporarily. We will continue watching Adilor, and hopefully we can get that set back up for you.
Yeah, right here, also there's the mirror checks. Adilor is going to be clearing up one of them now. I'd be surprised if we saw Graveyard Ledge. Adilor is going to be doing Cave 45 because it's right here. And on the topic of, completion rate, it honestly getting above 200 isn't uncommon in ADKs.
Having to do, and then, well, you do have some checks like this too, where the runners will look at it and they'll go away. So I think there are a number of additional checks. We can probably add a few where they looked at it and walked away. But,
Checkerboard
Cave. Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with this. I'd go to Pod, clear it out, hope the Castle Tower key shows up, because I'd only do check, Bombos Medallion, or Bombos Tablet and Cave 45, yeah, you do those after you clear Swamp, because you're in the area. This, you have to flute to 6 no matter what. So, you do this after Pod if you have to.
But if it's in
you
here,
go and clear Pod.
If it's in here, you just go mode Pod. You just go right through to the boss.
Yeah, I suppose that's the only.
Right.
Given that Adilor hasn't been to Pod a single time yet, I just think it's okay, you just hope it's in Pod.
But see, to me, that means that it is that much more of a time save, right? He could also be looking for that Pod small key, hoping that he can get the 5th one to full clear it in case it's that last location in Pod where he can't find it. He doesn't know that it's in Pod like we do. There's actually 2 keys out there, so that there is one more in Pod. Carlson finishing up Pod. Seems like the fight went okay. That's leaving Carlson with 3 dungeons I think we haven't seen him in. Adilor checking the left, which is pretty much the standard route for anybody coming in here. No item, no keys required, doesn't waste anything.
And the biggest thing is it's always in logic, so you may as well get the in logic check first.
That didn't work. Ignoring? Oh no, okay. I thought I was going to ignore that side for a moment.
Yeah, it is actually faster to go to Bollock side from there rather than going left. Is you dash up into there and push the statue over. Saves a little bit of time over taking the more obvious route.
Now, I'm not sure how much of this we saw on Carlson's side. But
we saw Dark Basement. I don't think we didn't see Hellway, and we didn't see the vanilla big key chest because Carlson was short 2 more small keys because Adilor did find 2 in Ganon's tower.
The health refill puts Adilor up to 17 hearts.
Yeah, it's kind of like the inverse of your standard spoiler race or co-op seeds, where it's pretty often that you're at pretty low percent by the end of the race. In all Dungeons Key Sanity, chances are you've found anything you could want for that final boss fight.
Carlson heading up to Turtle Rock, it looks like. So we'll definitely get him. There was definitely an important item in Turtle Rock.
There were a few, I would say. And the most important is really the crystal. Also important is the Eastern Palace Big Key.
I think the Ice Rod was actually in there.
Yeah, Ice Rod was first chest of Laser Bridge as well.
Yeah. Putting Ice Rod in Turtle Rock, this particular seed has been not very nice to our runners.
Yeah, that could have been done pretty early on. You could get to the Ice Rod without you can get to the Ice Rod and the EP Big without I think if you steal the key you can make it that far. I could be wrong about that. But you wouldn't be able to make it to the boss with the Ice Rod.
I wouldn't be able to oh, so he is comfortable with Hammer Yump, it looks like.
Well, comfortable. Maybe he's comfortable with his lead. Maybe he's feeling good.
It's actually interesting. Did he not? Oh, he went into the basement, so he has the key.
Yeah, he has the key. It's just faster to go this way, and I don't know. For a lot of people who do Hammer Yump, they just do it every time anyway.
I mean, if he ends up falling again, it definitely would have been faster just to do it the first time. But oh, he's got it, and he finds the key at 2 hours 12 minutes. Adilor is in go mode with an almost full inventory.
Yeah, just missing some keys here and there. Every bottle, every mail upgrade, missing a sword that he's seen but is not going to go get.
He's missing 1 pod key. He's missing 1 pod key and 1 GT key. It looks
3
like.
hearts.
And 3 hearts. That is... Oh, and a sword. They opted not to pick... He opted not to pick up the sword. But he knows where it is if he actually needed it. Lightly missing that arrow. But, so we'll see him finish the boss here and head straight to Aga Tower. So, with this kind of being in a little bit of a lull, I can remind everyone that we have the runners Twitch in chat. So, give them a follow. They've put on a good show for us here today. Carlson's having a bit of technical issues, but from when he's been on, he's been great too.
Yeah, and big shout outs to all of the open league racers here. It's a pretty big opportunity to be able to pull a team together and compete in a tournament like this. Even if you're not a big name top tier runner like a lot of the invitational league runners are. And some of the teams have been doing quite well, and for a lot of other teams they've been doing poorly, but it's an invaluable learning experience. Again, it's hard to not bring it up when you talk about newcomers to the scene, but TJ's infamous 8-hour mystery seed last week.
Yeah, that's definitely not a seed. For 8 hours in a game is a long time. But he completed it, and just as Adilor quickly completes his pod. Finds a small key to Mystery Mire. Oh, I missed the key.
Go in there and unlock one of the doors.
Wait, but we have listed 3 keys on the tracker. Anyways, speaking of a tracker, I'm also going to say thank you to our tracker, Kono Tyran. He's also our restreamer today, so he's a lot of the reason that we're able to put this on and have you view it.
Yeah, that's been a pretty big thing. Any open league race, especially that gets restreamed, is off the back of excellent community volunteers making it happen, especially giving some of these it feels like a backhanded compliment, but less experienced runners a chance in the spotlight.
Yeah, well, I mean, it also gives them a little bit of gives people information that they're playing this game. If anybody wants to go check them out on Twitch, it gives them a little bit of exposure to create their own followings and information. As Adilor is now in Castle Tower and is on his way up.
Yeah, both of the chests in here have already been nabbed. The second chest in here containing the crucial Skullwood's big key, which was required for our Titan's mitts.
Adilor just going up, doing the very clean climb. I'm sure he's very happy to be heading towards the end of this game. Kind of wonder what he's thinking about, if he's keeping an eye on that that finish time to see if his opponent is finishing.
And especially going back to my comment earlier about less experienced runners, it's still a pretty good time to be finishing an all dungeons key sanity with in the first half of the third hour. Yeah, I remember when I first started out, I was really happy with a 2.5 hour regular seed. So despite being on the lower end of the overall spectrum, these are certainly very, very good players. Yeah, especially in light of the fact that Adilor had to complete the majority of the game and collect the majority of the items. Nice hook speed, doesn't quite make it that far around, but it's worth it. You make up all the time in the top half of the room. And it's been a long race here, but if anybody feels so inclined, feel free to play our second favorite guessing game. How many blue balls is Aggie going to give us tonight?
I always say 4. What's your number? How many blue balls?
I never like saying, because I've seen enough people actually miss one of the shots that it could be more than 15. So far, we're at 2.
So
I'm gonna guess.
I was gonna say, are you guessing more than 15?
Not tonight. I have mercy. I'm guessing 3. So I'm guessing we're not gonna see any more. We've seen 3 already. Please let this
that's 4.
end mercifully.
That's my guess. Oh no, that was a hit. Never mind. That's 4. Still at 4. I almost counted that one too.
So far we've had 2 possible, well, I guess 3 now. Possible blue balls be not blue balls. Maybe 4.
I think we have 4 blue balls now, right?
Yeah.
And right, that one has to be. That one's a guaranteed good shot. And it is 4.
So enjoy the internet points you don't get.
Yep.
You and Cookie Monster
is also said 4 along with me, and so it is what it is.
So we get that refill for the fight with the big pig. We did, in fact, clear all of our goals, as Ganon complains about needing food instead of calling us a dingus, and we've got our Ganon fight here.
So it's 12 hits on phase 1, 12 hits on phase 2. With Again, it's very kind positioning in that little spot. I think that was already...
Yeah, it's
Yep,
a
that
good
was
1-in-1 with the tempered sword. 1-in-1 is like one cycle phase 1, one cycle phase 2 is pretty free with the gold sword. Not nearly as free with the tempered sword. But Adilor gets it done. On to phase 3 already. 4 hits, 1 for each side of the room, and then we're onto the silvers phase.
So there is a glitch here. If Adilor is... Oh, he got an early one. If he is able to light this left torch before the right one goes out, that was very clean. The left one will
good
never
spot
go
here
out.
too. Gets a double. If
And
Ganon
that
hits a wall, then you can't hit him again. If he doesn't, then you can go for a double. In rare cases, a triple. Adilor with a very clean Ganon fight to end out this run. We'll finish here with an official time of 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 6 seconds.
Get your GGs in chat for Adilor. And joining us in the booth is Adilor.
Yeah, for a quick interview, we have another race to set up, so we'll try to keep it brief. So, Adilor, how are you feeling?
Honestly exhausted. That seed was just a real chore to get through. At no point did it ever chill out and be like, all right, now we can just like sit back and go mode some dungeons and kind of finish out the game. Nope, it was still full clearing until the very end.
And even looking back on it, it's like, cleaning up the routing in retrospect is even kind of a tough prospect. There's not much you could have done to do things a little any cleaner, really.
And like through the first half or so, there were so many bottlenecks. Like you had to find just one item and one more item and then one more item. It's just like,
yeah.
Well, we were talking
linear seed.
We were talking about that right at the starting of the game. The game gave you a whole bunch of really good items, and then we didn't see anything good for another like 40 minutes.
Yeah, it bottlenecked super hard, and I think I did it at least once. I'm already forgetting like half of it because
it's bottlenecked on mitts. Is bottlenecked on flute.
Yeah,
I think hookshot showed up unexpectedly. So
yeah, the hookshot was kind of out of nowhere. I'm like,
it was either hookshot or mirror. At that point, we knew it had to be either hookshot or mirror in there.
Yeah, and of course, mirror was on the GT climb because where else is it going to be with Pendant Swamp and 80 keys?
Speaking of the GT climb, you skipped Compass Room. Was that an intentional choice, or did you sort of space out that you could go there, grab the key afterwards, and still do the climb?
About halfway through left side, I realized, oh yeah, there's another key back there. That right side's key neutral. But that decision, I was kind of freaking out because I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to mess up my keys in GT. I was
with going in with only 2, that's pretty spooky.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe 1 or 2 too many things. I'm like, I really don't want to lock myself out of this dungeon and have to go find another GT small.
That's actually what we thought you were thinking about, but we were just curious because we were discussing if that's where that CT small had been. It was going to be an interesting run back.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, if it's up there, I'm gonna hate it.
Well, you brought your team another win. Unfortunately, you've prevented yet again another opportunity for Tony Hawk's Pro Smith Chain to put a win on the board. But how's your experience been in the league so far?
So I actually got substituted in for, was it week 4? Week 4 was the pilot week, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So far I've actually only had 2 races myself. Like actually more of my experience has been doing like a race room coverage and whatnot. But this is the first actual race I've run. So there's a little bit of like, oh, how do I actually do the delay correctly? So my bad for starting us a few minutes late. That was on me. But so far it's been pretty cool. Like the process of getting subbed in and just kind of getting integrated in scheduling matches and stuff has been really good. All right, so I think
we've said. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, are any thoughts about the upcoming week, the co-op Enemizer that the league has in week 7?
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I play a fair amount of Enemizer. This is I do a lot of mystery and stuff in multi-world, so pretty much any mode is relatively comfortable. Like nothing's going to catch me by surprise. But Enemizer, it should be interesting. And I never played co-op Enemizer specifically, so there'll be a bit of kind of figuring out like how are we like calling out specific enemies and if there's any different route changes and depending on like where we think certain bosses are going to be. It's I'm not quite sure what to expect, but I think it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Sounds
And so with
good.
that, we have that's going to be all for us for tonight. We've got a couple more races going on. Unfortunately, looks like 2 of them on the Open League are not going to be receiving a stream, but we do have one coming up fairly soon between Les French Canadiens and Zelda's Chocobo Squad on ALTTPR League. And we've also got at 7:10 in the Invitational League on Speed Gaming 3, Last Locationers versus 2 Pearl, 2 Furious. So if you feel so inclined, be sure to check those out.
If you don't want to miss future ones on future days and future nights, don't forget to also follow the ALTTPR League and ALTTPR Leagues 2 through 4, as well as the Speed Gaming and Speed Gaming 2 through 6. Otherwise, we wish you all a good night, day, whatever time it is where you are, and hope to see you on another stream.